Okay, Shalom again. We're on the bottom of Tet Amud Bet, the last two words. So just understand, we're going on the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, if a person went ahead and made a nidava or a neder, it's a little unclear at this point, like the nidava of. Okay, so again, we're at the bottom of Tet Amud Bet, and we're trying to understand our Mishnah. Who is our Mishnah? According to which Tana is our Mishnah? We had a machlokas from Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, whether or not it's good to go ahead and to make a neder or not, because in Kohelet it said it's better not to make a neder and to not fulfill it. But what about if you're going to make the neder and fulfill it? So we said earlier that the Mishnah could fit even according to our Meir, because the only time our Meir said it was a negative thing was to make a neder. That is not a good thing to do, but to make a nedava, that would be okay, and therefore it fits with the end of our Mishnah, the Sefer of our Mishnah that says if a person went ahead and said kinidvotam, like the nedava of the kisherim, that is a valid statement because kisherim do make nedava. So now the Gemara is going to even say you can even be the Rabbi Yehuda, meaning because Rabbi Yehuda went ahead and said that it's even good to make a neder, seemingly. And our Mishnah, though, says, no, kisherim do not make nedarim. If you said kinidr kisherim, it's lomar klum, it's nothing, because it's like a stira, it's a contradiction in the statement, because kisherim don't make nedarim. So now the Gemara says, the last two words of Tatam Beis is a v'bayit ema, on top of Yudam Aleph, afilu tema Rabbi Yehuda. You could even say the Tana of our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda. Ki amar Rabbi Yehuda. When did really Rabbi Yehuda say it is a good thing to do? Benedava. Okay, it really was by Nedava. Beneder though, lo amar. But by Neder, he did not say that. And therefore, it fits in our Mishnah that a Neder kisherim do not do, but a Nedava kisherim do. Shemar asks, what do you mean? Hakatani told me Zeh no der mekayim. Right? His words are that what's better or the best if a person makes a neder and fulfills it. So my answer is no. Tani, you have to change the statement, erase it, and put it on a different word. No devu mekayim. That if someone's good, if he fulfills it, makes it a nedava, and he fulfills it. Nachon? Works out? Okay, so now we could say, according to this answer, that the Tana of the Mishnah could really be according to Yehuda, and Nedarim is not a good thing for Kisherim to make, but Nedava are, similar to what the first answer held in Rameir. So then where they asked a similar question that they asked Rameir, now they're asking Rabbi Yehuda, Maishna, no der delo. What's the difference why Kisherim don't make a neder? Because why Dilmati ba lidei takala? Maybe they're going to come to a mishap, meaning maybe they won't fulfill it. So it's a bad idea to make a neder. So Gemara says, Nedava nami dilmati lidei takala. Maybe also you're going to make the same mistake. Yeah. So 5 lines down, Rabbi Yehuda is according to his reasoning, very similar to the Gemara's answer earlier. But earlier we brought in a story of Hillel. Now we're saying Rabbi Yehuda himself made a statement, so that's why we're bringing Rabbi Yehuda, because now we're in the answer of Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar Adam maybe kivatto azara. A person brings his kavas, his sheep, his lamb to the azara umakdisha, and he is makdish it right there, meaning right before the azara. And therefore, there's no concern that something wrong is going to happen to it. And again, he does the smicha, he rests his hands on it, the shochtan, he slaughters it. Shugmar asked a similar question. Tenach nedava de karbanot. Fine, I understand now the nedava of karbanot, but nedava de nezirut ma'ikal me'amar. A person makes a nedava to become a nazir. Many mistakes could happen. You could become tamei. You could eat from the grapes. Rabbi Yehuda the tamei. The Gemara answers about 10 lines down. Rabbi Yehuda the tamei. The Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer chasidim arishonim. Fascinating that the original Hasidim, the original pious holy people, hayu mitavin lehebi karban chatat. They had a desire to bring a karban chatat. When the Torah goes in and brings in the concept of bringing a karban chatat, they wanted to fulfill that. They wanted to bring a karban chatat, but they couldn't, because they wouldn't do a purposeful sin. But that, anyways, a chatat is not brought in. But even a mistaken sin, they wouldn't do. Why? Hashem would ordain and make sure that even a mistake would not happen. They wouldn't be over on Shabbat. So mahoy osin. So what would they do? They really wanted to bring a karban chatat. So omdin, they would get up and misnadin nizirut. lamakom. So they would go ahead and volunteer to become a nazir, because at the end you have to bring a karban chatat, and therefore they would do that in order to bring karban chatat lamakom in order to Hashem. So this type of nazirut, this comes again a similar answer that what that nazirut on the what's considered the type of nidaba nazirut that is good when it's totally l'shem shemayim, similar to the story of the handsome man of the Darom. So here too, these Hasidim, they did it totally sheshemayim. It wasn't a spur of the moment inspiration. They really wanted to go ahead. They work on themselves completely. They really want to bring a karban chatat, and therefore that type of nazirut is a valid thing that a person could take upon himself. So about 15 lines down, the first word on is lamakom. So now the next word is Reb Shimon Omer. Reb Shimon in that Braita, arguing with the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, who said that the Hasidim wanted to bring a chatat, and therefore they would take upon themselves a nazirut. Reb Shimon Omer, lo nadru ben nazir. They would not go ahead and take upon themselves nazirut. He argues in Yehuda and says, no, they wouldn't take upon themselves nazirut, even though they wanted to bring this chatat. Ella harotza lehevi ola. If he wants to bring a ola, misnadev. Umevi. He sent a dava and he brings it. Nachon, like you said, you're right. Shlamim misnadev umevi shlamim. He also can bring toda, v'arba minei lachma, the karban toda, and the four types of bread, the loaves and the matzot. Misnadev umevi. Also, and the bread. He goes ahead and he does the dava and he brings it. Avu ben nazirut lo yisnadvu. He would not go ahead and bring. They would not do this. Lama kedesh lo yikaru chotin. In order that they should not be called sinners. Shenamar, they're going to be called sinners. Lama, Shenamar says in the pasuk, "V'chiper alav me'ashech chata ala nefesh." So Rabbi Shimon says, at the end of the day, the Torah says, "V'chiper alav," that he gets atonement me'ashech chata from what he sinned ala nefesh, on his soul. I mean, that's the reason why the Torah is requiring him to bring a chatat, and therefore, at the end of the day, there is something that is wrong with taking the nazirut on the person. Amar Abaye, like you said, very good. Tomod. Amar Abaye, we should have recorded it. Amar Abaye says, Shimon HaTzadik, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar HaKapar. So these three people, Shimon HaTzadik, which was on the previous Amud, he was the Kohen Gadol who went ahead and saw the handsome man, the story, and the handsome boy. Rabbi Shimon, who we just said, Rabbi Elazar HaKapar, we're about to say, Kulan Shita Achatein, they have all one thought, one opinion. The Nazir Chotei Habe, that a Nazir in some way is a sinner. How? Shimon HaTzadik, Rabbi Shimon Hada Amran, right? Shimon HaTzadik, we said earlier, he would not eat from the karban asham of the Nazir. Why? Because he felt, that it's not totally l'shem shemayim, it's somewhat of a chait. That one exception was for the handsome boy, but otherwise, no. Rabbi Shimon, like we just said, he argues on Rabbi Yehuda and says that no, these Hasidim, they didn't do Nazir, because at the end of the day, it is somewhat of a chait. And Rabbi Elazar Kapar, Rabbi, this Rabbi Elazar Kapar, who is a Rabbi, that's when Mepharshim explain Rabbi, usually means the son of Rabbi, here means the Rabbi. The Tanya, Rabbi Elazar Kapar, Rabbi Omer, V'chiper ala me'asher chata ala nefesh. That, right, the same similar pasuk that Rabbi Shimon brought, that he has atoned for him from what he sinned on his soul. So, v'chi be'ezel nefesh chatazeh. What type of soul? What type of sin of the soul did the person do? Right? What did he do wrong? The person is a Nazir. Ella shetzir atzmo min hayayin. He afflicted himself from abstaining, from holding back, from drinking wine. Meaning Hashem gave yayin. Yayin is good, tastes good, and you're going ahead and not taking pleasure from the world. That's a sin. And this is a kavachomer. Someone who only pain themselves from abstaining, from holding back from drinking wine, is called a sinner. Someone who pains himself from any matter, certain, how much more so, he's going to be called a sinner. Mikan, from here we learn, anyone who sits in a fast is called a chotei. So, seems like, right, the opinion of Rabbi Elazar HaKapar Rabbi is holding that, no, you're doing a sin. By being a Nazir, you're abstaining yourself from wine. that is a sin. Yeah, Hashem gave us the world to take benefit from, and you're going to go ahead and not taking advantage. That is in some way a sin. Now, this obviously has to be taken with a full picture because we know Tanit is a thing that brings us to Teshuva, and it has obviously many benefits, but there's some aspect that Hashem wants us to benefit from as well. I remember there was once one gadol that he wanted to see the Swiss Alps. Why? Because Niflot Hashem. He said Hashem's going to ask me. I made the beautiful Alps. Did you not see them? So it's there's a beautiful things. Now we don't necessarily have to go to the Swiss Alps to see it. We can, there's a lot of internet we can watch, planet Earth to see the beauty of Hashem. The Gemara says, "V'hadin kra b'nazir tamektiv." At the end of the day, this pasuk is referring to a nazir tamei, meaning the pasuk that says that you have to go ahead and bring a karban and ichiper alav ala chet shechata lenefesh. That's not talking about a regular person that accepted upon his nizirut who made it through the 30 days, scot free without any issues. That's only talking about someone that in the middle messed up. He by mistake became tamei or drank wine, so he has to. So maybe the pasuk is only talking about that person. So how can we say that's referring to even a stam, a person that accepted upon himself nizirut? So Gemara answers, Mishum deshana b'chetu. That person, you're right, did something even worse because he did a double sin. What was his double sin? Number one, he abstained from wine because he accepted upon himself nizirut, but he didn't even make it through. So he has to do the nizirut one more time. I think the way I understood it was almost for no reason. Like if you abstain from wine for good reason, fine. But here there's no reason because he has to do another 30 days. So for the first 20 days that he abstained. There is a reason. Yeah, what's the reason?
We studied a few days ago. The person does something that he's not allowed to do, or he had something and it was taken away from him and he got it back, he has more joy. Meaning, davar ba'avera is much joyful. So look at it. Before, he wanted to have the wine. He said, this is what Hashem gave us, is the best, we should drink. Now he said, no, I should not drink. And then he drank it like, so to speak, in sin. So now it's double the joy.
Very good. Very good. I like it. It's harder. It's more enjoyable. Maim ginavim yimtaku. So here, he wants to enjoy the wine even more. How? He made it asur on him to drink it, and now he's drinking it. Tastes better. I hear. Gemara doesn't say that, but I hear. So that's what the Gemara is answering. It's because he did a double sin. That's what he did. But at the end of the day, it is still somewhat of more. It is still a sin for just abstaining from wine, even if you made it, through the 30 days. It's just a double, and that's what you have to bring the chatat for double sinning. But even for one, it is considered somewhat of a sin. And that's the end of the Gemara till the Mishnah Yudam and Aleph. Okay. Okay, here we go. The Mishnah says like this. Ha'omer, one who says, Konem, konech, konam, konas. Should probably say with the Nakudo. Okay, so here we're getting back, right? If you just take a bird's eye view of our Mishnayot, this is, I believe, our fourth Mishnah. So we learned starting from the Mishnah, Bet and Aleph, we learned that the structure of the Mishnah was, the Mishnah started out with the concept of kinuyim. Mazek kinuyim? Kinuyim is like an alternative word, a nickname word. It's another word for karban, another name for the neder that you're taking. Then the Mishnah continued and went to what we called yadot, which was handles, which is you're saying everything right, you're just not expressing too much. So we have to extrapolate from what you're saying if you're trying to make a neder or not. And then, so we did A, kinuyim, B is yadot. Then the Mishnah continued with B, with more exampple of yadot, or the loss of yadot. Now we're going back to A, to the kinuyim. So it's A, B, B, A, like a butterfly. A, B, B, A. Okay? The wing to the middle, other side of the middle, and now back to the end. And those are parallel to each other. What?
Split to two. Filet mignon, split to two.
Yeah. Okay, so now the Mishnah says, Ha'omer, Ha'omer, ko, konam, konach, konas. If someone says any of those three terminologies, harei lo kinuyin lekarban. So that is like a nickname, an alternative for the lashon, the word, the language of karban, right? Similar, there's a kuf, has a sound, okay? Cherek, cheref. If he says any of those lashonot, those languages, so that is harei kinuyim lecherem. That would be a nickname or alternative for a cherem. A cherem is when you go and you say, I want to like give this over to the for the Beit Hamikdash, right? So now it's off limits to you. The Mishnah continues. Mishnah says nazik, naziach, paziach. Any of those three lashonot, harei kinuyim lenaziut. That would be a nickname or alternative word for becoming a nazir. And if he said finally shivuta shikuka, or the third noder bimohi, we'll have to explain why the third alternative is a whole different language. Harei elu kinuyin lishvua. Those three, shivuta, shikuka, and noder bimohi, are all kinuyin, all nicknames or alternative words for the shvua, for shvua. Okay, so for all four type of limitations on the person, a karban, a cherem, nizirut, and shivua, we have three examples of different words which are binding upon a person for each of them. So the Gemara says like this: Itmar, Tov. Itmar, we learned kinuyin. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan and Amora says lashon umot hein. These are words from the nations. These are words that if you look in the dictionary, you'll go to whatever, you'll hit one of the countries that uses this word instead of karban. They say konam. That's the way they articulate and express what a karban is. It's lashon umoten. It's lashon of the different nations. Reb Shimon ben Lakish Amar, Reb Shimon Lakish, his arch enemy, Chavruta. No, really good friends. Amar says lashon shabadu lahem chachamim. No, these are the lashonot that the chachamim chose. The chachamim went ahead and chose three of these lashonot, that these are going to be the same as a karban, or for each segment, cherem, nazir, and shvua, liot noder, to go ahead and make a neder with. V'cheinu omer, how do we see what's the lashon of shabadu that they chose? V'cheinu omer b'chodesh shabada milibo, in the month that he chose from his heart. So again, you see the lashon of bada, it means to choose. So what's the machloket? This machloket is between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is that, right, when a person goes ahead and makes a neder, we need, number one, we need to know what his intent is, right? There has to be intention to make a neder, but there also has to be the expression, right? A person could think all the day he wants a neder, but if he doesn't say it, doesn't do anything. But he has to say something. So when he says this lashon of konam, let's say, instead of karban, so why should that work? So Rabbi Yochanan says simply, okay, these are different ways to say karban. This is different in the different languages. This is the different dialect that they would say karban. This is what Rabbi Reish Lakish says, no, that would not work. The rabbis went ahead and instituted. They sat down and they said, we're going to go ahead and institute three similar lashonot that the neder is going to be binding upon the person for. Okay? I believe it's the Ran that explained that according to Rabbi Yochanan that said it's lashon umot. Let's say you have English word for karban is offering or sacrifice. Would that be binding upon a person? A person says this animal should be a sacrifice. This offering should be an offering. So he says vadai. Of course it would, right? Like you don't need specific lashon hakodesh of karban, right? As long as if that is what your intent is and that's what that word means in the spoken language, of course that would work. So what's the Mishnah teaching us a chiddush of these three words? If it's that language in that country, in that country, in that country, it should work. So I believe it's the Ran that explains that these countries went ahead and didn't just have a different word like offering for karban. They wanted to imitate the word karban, but they messed it up. So maybe now that ruins it. Like we saw, if a person doesn't say something, if he says something which is like a stira, a contradiction, if he says something wrong, that would mess it up. So here, these three different countries went ahead and made up something for karban, but they messed up the word. It's konam, konach, konas, you would think therefore it should not work. Kamash will not know. Rabbi Yochanan say no, it's still the Masechet does work. Okay? Tov, good explanation. So the Gemara says like this. 3 lines from the bottom. V'taimamai tekinu rabbanan kinuyin. Sorry, this was in Reish Lakish. Okay, the Reish Lakish says that the rabbis came along and said, we're going to make up 3 words that you could say instead of karban. It's binding. So why? Why would the rabbis do that? What's the point of making up these words? Because we don't want the person to say the word karban. So therefore, we give him 3 alternatives to say. Say konam, konach, konas.
So if so, then he cannot use these words to be committed.
He can't use what word?
No, it's not commitment. They invented this word, so he doesn't say korban.
So he says
why is the point that you put this word? So he doesn't say korban.
So he doesn't say karban. No, not that he doesn't make a vow of a karban. He shouldn't say the word karban.
Why?
Why? So the Gemara says velema karban. Well, what's the big deal? Let him say karban. So Gemara's answer is Dilma Amar karban lashem, because we're afraid he's going to say karban lashem. In the pasuk it says karban lashem, right? So I believe in the pasuk. So therefore we're afraid he's going to go ahead and say karban lashem. So the Gemara still asks, okay, mabaya. So what's the problem saying karban Lashem? What meaning when we're saying Lashem, we're not saying Hashem like we're saying it. It means the actual name of Hashem. But still, what's the problem? In a bracha, you're allowed to say the name of Hashem. So here too, you're going ahead and saying a valid thing. You're giving an offering to Hashem. So what's the problem? So Gemara answers Dilma Abar Lashem Dilomar Karban. We're afraid that the person is going to say just the word Lashem and not say the word Karban. He has in mind he wants to bring this as a Karban, but he's so used to saying Karban Lashem, he's just going to be like, okay, Lashem. And that, just to say the name of Hashem without anything connected to anything, the last line of the Gemara, that's considered saying the name of Hashem in vain. If it's not connected, so then it's the Shem Hashem Levatala. Vitanya, and the Braita says, Rabbi Shimon says, now we're turning to Daf Yud Amud Bet. Adam laHashem Olah. How do we know that person shouldn't say to Hashem, this is an Olah, Karban Olah? Or la Hashem mincha, or la Hashem toda, or la Hashem shlamim. Talmud Lomar karban la Hashem, meaning a person shouldn't say the first Hashem's name first, but he should say the karban la Hashem. That's what the Tana Rabbi Shimon says. Okay, this is before Rabbi Reish Lakish. So a person should say karban la Hashem. V'kal v'chomer. Now we can make a kal v'chomer. Umazeh shalonit kaven ela haskir shem shamayim ala karban. This person, why is he saying Lashem? Because he wants to say Lashem Olah or Lashem Chatat. Nachon? Yet Amra Torah, the Torah says no. Say Karban Lashem. Don't say the name of Hashem first. It sounds like the reason is that we're afraid the person is going to say the word Hashem and then he's not going to finish his sentence. So then it's going to just be the name of Hashem. So first say the Karban. Okay, if you stop there, no Baya. You just said the word Karban. No problem. But if you're going to say Lashem, we're afraid that then you're going to get distracted and you're going to leave off just the name of Hashem. So therefore they said, say Karban Lashem. And that is Amra Torah, the Torah says, right, Karban Lashem, right, 4 lines down. Alachat kama v'kama, so levatala alachat kama v'kama. So certainly when a person says the name of Hashem levatala, certainly that is a big problem. So we see the strictness. We see how the Torah goes ahead and is very strict on a person going ahead and saying the name of Hashem, and therefore that's where Reish Lakish explains why a person should say has to these 3 alternative words instead of saying karban. Okay, so now the Gemara says 5 lines down. Lema kitanai. Should we say, and this is always a question, that whenever we have a machloket amoraim, it shouldn't be a machloket tanaim. It shouldn't be the same as the earlier generation, because and then they should just say their opinion. I'm saying like the earlier generation. If they're going ahead and having an argument, it sounds like it's their own argument. So lema kadanai, but it seems like this is machloket tanaim already. Beishamai omrim, Beishamai ben Betilal. How? Beishamai omrim kinuyin asurin. A nickname of a nickname is asur, is binding upon a person. Meaning, if a person went ahead instead of saying, konam, he said, I don't know a good example, but konama, let's say. He made a nickname of the nickname. What happens if he goes ahead and makes a nickname of the nickname? So asurin, Beis Shammai says that's asur. Beis Hillel no, kinuyin mutarin. You go ahead and you made a nickname of the nickname. It's mutar. So my love, can we not explain Manda Amar Kinui Kinuyin Asuin. The opinion, like of Beit Shammai, that says that it's asur to use an alternative, right? A nickname of a nickname. Kasavar, he holds Kinuyin Lashon Umotain. That Kinuyin is the language of the nations, and therefore what? If now the nations talk with another nickname, a nickname of the nickname, if at the end of the day that is the language that they speak with, so then okay, it's going to be binding, right? Why should it not be binding? If that is how they now speak, they call something which they call the nickname, and now they make a nickname for the nickname, right? See that happening very often now. We try to shorten everything, so then of course it should be. But according to the Lamad Amar, meaning Beit Hillel, who says that no, an alternative to an alternative, and a nickname of a nickname does not work, is mutar, is not binding. Kasamar, he holds lasun shabadulan chachamim, is from the reason why those specific 3 words work is because that's the rabbi sat down and ordained that they should work. Are you allowed to now make up any other word and have that be binding? Of course not. It's only what the rabbis made up. It's only what the rabbis said that these 3 should work. So this sounds like an issue because it sounds like the machloket amoraim is machloket tanaim. So Gemara says like this: lo. Yeah, about 10 lines down, middle of the line, lo. Dekuleyama, really everybody else, kinuyin, lashon, umotain. That really nicknames or alternatives is lashon umot, right? Really, like we could say like Rabbi Yochanan. That really it's what the language of the nations. Ubeit Shammai Sabri, though, Beit Shammai hold, Bahani Nami Mishtai Umot, that these nicknames also some of the nations use them. Meaning they some people talk like that. They also call the nickname of the nickname. So therefore they say that suffices, that works. Let's say 10%. 10% go ahead and call the nickname another nickname. And they hold Zemoil. That helps. That suffices. At the end of the day, most people don't do it, and therefore that's considered that they don't use it. Even if 10% do it, it's not enough to be binding. Or you could say that what? Beit Shammai Savri Gazrinan Kinuyin Mishum Kinuyin. That sounds like really we could go in the other camp. I believe that even really like Rish Lakish. But what? But that Beit Shammai is holding that why it's asur? Not because people speak like that, because the rabbis, the Rabbanan made a gezerah that if a person used a nickname of a nickname, we have to say it's asur, even though it should not be mid-oraita, it should not work. It should not be binding. But the rabbis went ahead and said we're going to make a gezerah. It sounds like it sounds too close to the nickname, and therefore we make a gezerah. No, we don't make this gezerah, and therefore that's why it will not be binding. So we answered that really both opinions could fit with either opinion. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish could fit according to either Beit Hillel or Beit Shammai. It's not a machloket amoraim, which is the same as a machloket tanaim, and therefore everything is tov, everything is good. Yeah, Bowman Amshich. So the Gemara, it says like this: Hechi dami. It's gonna move very quick now. The first word on the line is gazrinan, about 15 lines down by the 2 dots. So the Gemara says, Hechi dami kinuyin dinadarim. What are these languages? What are these nicknames of nicknames? Okay. So Tani Rabbi Yosef, mikanema, mikanecha, mikansa. Okay, so again, look, you see the shoresh, the root of the word is, let's say the first one is konam, right? And the second one is konach. But now they added in even more letters to it, right? So it's a nickname of the nickname. Okay? The Gemara is going to go through all of them. What would be a nickname of the cherem? So Tani mefashfisha, I guess that's a person. Charakim, charachim, charafim. Again, the same like main ones of the kinoi, but with added letters. So it's a nickname of a nickname. Kinoi, kiniyin, diniziro. What about the third category of niziro? Tani Rabbi Yosef, mechazkana, mezazchana, mapincha. Right. So again, those are 3 nicknames of the nicknames. And the Gemara asks, mifchazna mai, mischazna mai, misazna mai. What about these lishono that again they have somewhat of the letters of the initial nickname, but it's a little more distorted. Amarle, it sounds like a question. Mai. Amarle Rabbeinu Rabashi. Kinma mai. What about kinma. If you say a lashon of kinma, you're gonna like this. My konem kamar. Is he saying it's a konam, right? And therefore it's a carbon. Odilma kinman bosem. Cinnamon. Maybe he's saying kinman bosem. Kamar. Again, no answer. Kinamai. What if a person says a kina? Kina shall tarnagol in kamar. Is he saying the kina of a tarnagol, like the little where the roosters, hang out, the little nest? Oh, the shovach. Odoma lashon de konam, or is that a lashon of konam? My answer is tibai. It's a question, and the Mefarshim explained that's the lashon of teku. Right, Nedarim is a little different than the Gemara, but that's the lashon of teku that we leave off with the question. The Gemara says, what about the fourth category? Kinoi and shavua hechidami. So the Gemara says, shivuel, shivusiel, shikukael. Okay, those are the three, right? They all sound similar to the nicknames, so they're nicknames of nicknames. So Gemara says, wait a second, Shavuel is one of them. Shavuel ben Gershom mashma, right? That's a real name. It's an actual person. Shavuel ben Gershom. So Ella Shabu Vavel. That's the question was Shabu Vavel, and then the next two Shavusiel and Shukuel Mahu. So Omar Shmuel, Omar Ashifta Lo Omar Klum. Person says Ashifta that would not suffice as even a kinoi, the kinoi. Ashkika Lo Omar Klum. Karishna also Lo Omar Klum. So those three, they're too far out, and therefore they would not work. Those for sure would not work. This final Gemara before the Mishnah ends off with the last line of the Mishnah. Nadar b'mohi, so harei elu kinuyan. Right, the Mishnah went ahead and said for Shavua, right, the Mishnah listed 3 for each one, and for Shavua it listed 2, which sound like Shavua, which were Shavusa and Shikuka, and then the third one was what? Noder b'mohi, and it said, okay, that is also a nickname of a Shavua. So Noder b'mohi, what is that? How does that anything to do with Shavua? So Tanya, the Braita Ted of Shem Gamliel Omer, Ha'omer b'mohi lomar klum. So we need the Mefarshim over here, the commentators. I believe it's the Ran. It says, b'mohi is really, b'mohi is another name for Moshe Rabbeinu. What happened? Moshe Rabbeinu went ahead and made a shavua to Yitro that he was not going to leave him unless he got permission to leave. So if he says, he wants to take a shvua like that of Moshe, okay, a noder b'mohi. So the Gemara says, if Shimon Lomar Homer b'mohi lomar klum. If he just says b'mohi in Moshe with Moshe, no, that doesn't work at all. Again, because it's not enough. There's not enough words there. Mumta. Sorry. B'mumta.
It's a place, no?
The Amar Mohi. He's saying with like the holiness, with the way they translate it here is the sacred pledge, with it's almost like the shavua, with the neder of that Moshe said, meaning I'm taking upon myself like the holy statement of Moshe. The mumta de Amar Mohi. So then then that would be considered, that would work as an equivalent for an oath, again, because you are going ahead and you're not saying a shavua, but you're connecting it to what Moshe himself went ahead and did, and therefore that would be considered enough to bind you on a shavua, and that is the end till the next Mishnah. Ma?